A week after the Pittsburgh Steelers took down the number one seed in the AFC in quite convincing fashion, I might add, they lay an absolute stinker on primetime, yet again losing their third game in 4 weeks, this time to the Los Angeles Chargers without their starting offensive tackles, I might add. Final score 25-10. Honestly, the game wasn't even as close as the final score shows. And it was a pretty embarrassing performance yet again for the black and gold. And now the question that remains is this the Steelers team we can expect down the stretch, or is this an outlier poor performance that the Steelers are going to bounce back from? Either way, you're sitting at 5-4, and the Baltimore Ravens are nipping at your heels, just one game behind the Steelers after starting their season 1-5. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to see all of our post-game reactions this season. I tried to keep myself pretty level-headed here on this show, guys, and I think you'll probably see that throughout this show, but we're going to give it to you straight. When the Steelers play bad, we're going to tell you that they're playing bad, and when they're playing well, we're going to tell you that as well, but certainly today was an embarrassing performance. If you guys want nuanced, level-headed, contextual Steelers coverage all throughout the year, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join the over 100K strong already subscribed to Steelers Talk. So obviously, man, just not a good performance today, specifically from the offense. And that's really the story of the game for me. Offense couldn't get anything going. They get a garbage time touchdown. Rowan Wilson gets another garbage time touchdown in this one, but he did nothing before garbage time in this one. DK Metcalf, 7 targets, ended up with 4 catches. Jaylen Warren really carried you on his back today, almost 100 total yards from scrimmage. Had some really great plays, had a hurdle. Had some really, really good stuff today. J-Dub continues to show you why he's J-Dub. And honestly, the Steelers defense played pretty well in this one. It's just that the Chargers consistently had the ball because the Steelers couldn't stay on the field before garbage time, 0 for 9 in third down situations, and they were 0 for 1 in fourth down situations. So possession down football was simply atrocious from the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers clearly had his worst game as a Steeler today. And even though the defense got a lot of stops, they did a good job for the most part today, in my opinion. They had another pretty decent performance against, a good quarterback. I would say the one area is that they can maybe get better a little bit in run defense, but certainly not a great performance from the black and gold in this one. That's unfortunate. But then you get to Darius Slay, who left the game with a concussion in the first half. Looked pretty bad. He had to be helped to the sidelines. So, obviously we're hoping Slay gets better from that soon. But if anything, that might increase the chances of Asante Samuel Jr. signing with the Steelers, because who knows how long Slay is going to be out with that concussion. Sometimes these kinds of concussions can, especially the bad ones, can keep you out multiple weeks. So, maybe that increases the chances of Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, extending a guaranteed starting spot in the cornerback room to Asante Samuel Jr. Guess we'll have to see. But starting with my takeaways here, man, the defense is not the issue, and I just talked about it. I thought the defense, did a really good job on third down today. I thought that they did generally a decent job stopping Justin Herbert. They got pressure on him at times. At the end of the day, they got stops. And, they gave up a couple touchdowns, sure, in this one. There was a couple bad breaks, like that one big play to Ladd McConkey in the second half. Good coverage from Eccles on a third down. It just happens to land in the right spot in McConkey's lap, and then Eccles is on the ground, so he's able to take it for a big gain. But Justin Herbert, pretty good performance today. Certainly nothing special, I would say. I thought that the Steelers defense held up pretty decently, and I think that the setup of Jalen Ramsey and Kyle Duggar at safety worked again this week. They forced Herbert to hold on to the ball a little bit longer than, some of the other quarterbacks that we've faced this season. Now, I would say the one area that you could maybe get a little bit better in is in run defense, and I thought that they did some good stuff today, but there were certainly stretches today where, that Chargers run game was pushing the line of scrimmage. They were creating run lanes for Kamani Vidal, who's a good player, by the way. He deserves some credit for getting to 95 yards on 25 carries, but he still held somebody here to, they ran the ball a lot today, frankly, in the second half. So defense is not the issue in this one. The offense was the issue, and we got a lot of takeaways to talk about the offense in this one. We'll start with the slow start. I mean, it's the second game in a row where, what was it, 3 drives to start the game without a first down or something like that. There's 3 and outs. That's happened 2 weeks in a row now. Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers need to get these guys in line, and, they got to be better on the script, and they were so much better at the earlier portions of the season. Like, they were doing such a good job, first drive of the game, scripted, just driving down the field, and sometimes that would be the best drives of the game is when they're on the script. Now they can't get anything going, man. And, they have a penalty on the first play of the game, false start on Andrus Peat. You have Aaron Rodgers sailing passes. You got all this different stuff. And, you had to limit the drive-killing mistakes in this game. And unfortunately, the Steelers did not do that, especially early on. They got to start better in the weeks to come. And then you got to be better on possession down football, man. Like I just said, before garbage time, this team was 0 for 9 on third and 0 for 1 on fourth. Now, yeah, there was a couple of missed DPIs that we'll talk about later in today's show on possession downs that probably should have been called, frankly. But, that's not why you lost this game, man. You want to know why you lost this game? The time of possession. They had the ball for over 15 more minutes than the Pittsburgh Steelers today. And honestly, it's a miracle that the time of possession battle is that differentiated, and the Steelers defense only gave up 25 points. That is commendable what the Steelers defense did right there. All right, but 3 turnovers from the Steelers. Calvin Austin III, right in the breadbasket. A guy that doesn't have drop issues. Calvin Austin III just drops it and goes right into the hands of Dante Jackson. Just, a lot of just big mistakes that ended up killing the offense today. I mean, it just creates a huge outlier, poor performance for this offense. That's really tough to swallow at this point in the season. I also thought, just a couple times today, Broderick Jones gave up some very quick pressures. Now, obviously, I'll watch the All-22 tomorrow, see exactly what it was. But I did think some of the sacks were on Aaron Rodgers holding the ball for too long. But, there was multiple times where Broderick was allowing quick pressures in one-on-one. He's had some pretty good games, but, I would certainly say at this point, Broderick Jones has not played well enough where if the season ended today, there's no way in hell you're picking up that fifth-year option on his contract. There's no way in hell. So, hopefully he plays better than he did today, but it certainly was a tough one for 77. Make sure you guys let me know down there in the comments section what your grade is for the Steelers' performance today, A, B, C, D, or F. For me, man, you got to give it a D, D-. I thought the defense showed up pretty decently today, but, the offense being as bad as it was, the offense gets an F, no question about it. And that carries a big weight on this grade today. So I'm probably going to go D-, maybe F+, if that's even a thing. But get those grades down there in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today, where you guys can get a great piece of Steelers apparel. Go to chatsports.com/PitSalute25 to get this Salute to Service Steelers hoodie. Really like the Army green look this year. They usually really go heavy camo, but I'm not really a big camo guy. I really like the Army green look though, with the American flag on the sleeve. If you guys want to get this hoodie today, you can go chatsports.com/PitSalute25. That link is down in the comments and description of today's show. Now, listen, man, we got to be honest. Aaron Rodgers played terribly tonight. He just did. He overshot DK Metcalf on what would have been a big play touchdown. On a great opportunity. He got the football after a shanked punt, after the Chargers' first drive. He got the ball in Charger territory, launches it deep, and he just overshoots him. And that was the first of many overthrows from Aaron Rodgers in this game. Before garbage time, he had less than 50% completions. It was just absolutely terrible from Aaron Rodgers today. And, was it all his fault? No. There was guys that dropped passes. There was different stuff that was going on. But Rodgers, man, he's known for his precision and his accuracy, and it wasn't good enough today. And I certainly think, his reliance on stick and dragon and a lot of these quick game concepts, the Chargers kind of knew that that's what they were going to try and run, and they were ready for it with their man match adjustments. And they took away the Steelers' first read a lot today, which led to more pressure, which led to sacks. He had 3 sacks today. Do I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play this poorly the rest of the season? No, we've seen a lot of good ball from A-Rod this year to indicate that this was more of an outlier performance. It just wasn't his night. But it certainly sucks that in a great opportunity to potentially go to 6-3 on the year, maintain a 2-game lead over the Ravens in the division against a team that's missing both of their starting offensive tackles. Defense is playing well. Just really sucks that this was the night that Rodgers decided to lay an egg. But, certainly, the refs didn't help in a couple of instances in this game, particularly the 2 non-DPIs against DK Metcalf. There was a third down where he's throwing a slant to DK Metcalf, and Derwin James just runs right into him and tackles him. Clear DPI, no call. Maybe the most obvious DPI I've ever seen in my life. Doesn't get called. Then, this one is a little bit more controversial, but in my opinion, Cam Hart is all over DK Metcalf. Doesn't have his eyes to the ball. And completely prevents DK Metcalf from making a play on the football in the end zone on a fourth down. Those are two critical non-calls in possession downs that, who knows, maybe the Steelers stay in it at that point. Like if you get that DPI call on that fourth down, you get the ball at the 1 yard line, you probably score a touchdown in that game. It might be a lot different. But and the same thing goes for that third down that you don't get the DPI call on the more obvious one. So obviously the refs, certainly, screwed the Steelers on those two instances, and maybe the game would be different if you get those calls. But you didn't get those calls, and frankly, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're dependent on those calls, and that's just unfortunate. But to look at a silver lining here, Jaylen Warren showed you, why I have consistently said he is the best offensive player on this team. Making guys miss, catching the ball out of the backfield, hurdling a guy today. His average today was 5 yards a carry. Frankly, I wish they would have got the ball to him more. I think they're passing the ball even a little bit too much at this point. They got to be a running football team, man. They got to have the run game be the identity, and then Rodgers wants to make, the quick game, from shotgun kind of like the identity of the offense. Like, no, man, it's got to be the ground and pound run game led by Jaylen Warren, followed by play action shots under center. Like, that's got to be the offense, and that's got to be the identity. And I think Rodgers needs to kind of leave his ego at the door a little bit with that, because this guy's special. He really is. He's a fantastic player. He's the best player we have on offense. And, 14 carries to me is not enough, all right? I thought he played well tonight. But, with all the issues that the Steelers offense had tonight, guys, I do think that the offense will be better. This game, was more like a Kenny Pickett, Matt Canada almost style game. I don't know if I've seen the offense play this bad since, probably Kansas City last year maybe on Christmas. Like, it's just today was the worst performance on offense by far on the season. And, all we're asking, all right, we're not asking for Aaron Rodgers in this offense to be elite, to, score 30-plus points a game. We're not asking them to be that kind of offense. What we're asking them to be, and what the Steelers and Mike Tomlin are asking this offense to be, it's a team that can score, in the mid to high 20s at least, consistently. And the Steelers have generally been that. Going into this game, they averaged over 25 points a game. So for me, this is an outlier performance that, is not, in congruence with what this Steelers offense actually is. And my thought is, I think next week against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, which is terrible, okay, this same Steelers offense put up over 30 points on them, and Aaron Rodgers maybe had his best performance of the season. After a game like this, this offense is going to be practicing hard. The focus level is going to be razor sharp, and I think they come out next week at home against Cincinnati, and I think that this offense will bounce back, and I think they'll bounce back against the Chicago team 2 weeks from now, and hopefully against the Bills defense, which is really struggling 3 weeks from now. So certainly not good enough tonight, but I do think I have some hope still that the Pittsburgh Steelers offense has what it takes to turn it around. So point the finger for me down there in the comments section. Who's the most to blame for the loss today? For me, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers makes a couple of those throws that he overthrew and overshot, I think this is a different game. It is. And, I think you can always point fingers at the non-calls, at the DPIs, but if Rodgers just makes the throws that he's supposed to throw or make, you're probably not even talking about the refs in this ball game, and it would have been close. But he didn't make the throws today. Certainly can't blame the defense in this one. I thought they played their butts off, frankly, for most of it. But certainly the offense as a whole was just not good enough today. Some final thoughts here before I say goodbye. Obviously, losing this game was a big one because the Ravens won today, and once again, they add a game on the Steelers in the division standings. And after the Ravens started, 1-5? Steelers started 4-1. Now it's just a one-game difference. And, that sucks because you had a real opportunity to run away with this division by coming away with some of these games, and during this stretch of primetime games where you have 3 primetime games in 4 weeks, you lose every primetime game. You lose every single one of those in embarrassing fashion. And, at this point, the Baltimore Ravens have to be the heavy favorite, at least in the sports books, to win the division. I still think that this Steelers team, and this is going to be a hot take, I think this team is going to bounce back. I think they're going to beat Cincinnati. I think they're going to beat Chicago. And I think they actually have a better chance than people think against the Buffalo Bills. That Bills team cannot handle jumbo personnel packages, and that's what the Steelers' bread and butter is. Isaac Seumalo will be back by that time, and the Steelers will be home. The Miami Dolphins, of all teams, killed the Buffalo Bills today. And if they can do it, I think the Steelers can certainly beat the Bills if things go their way in that ball game. And if they win those 3 games, man, you're sitting in a pretty decent spot, and we'll see what the Ravens do. And then you play the Ravens there in Baltimore after the Buffalo game, and that might be, an interesting stage there at that point in the season. But my advice to you guys is the same thing Aaron Rodgers has been saying the entire season. Don't ride the roller coaster. It's a week-to-week league. One week you're taking down the number 1 team in the AFC. Next week your offense lays an egg. I don't think this is, what the Steelers' offense is. I think they'll be better moving forward. I'm hoping the Steelers' defense can continue to play well like they have over the last 2 weeks, in my opinion. And I certainly think that this Steelers team has what it takes to bounce back in the weeks to come. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I appreciate each and every one of you guys stopping by here. I know there's a lot of disappointment and, frankly, anger after, the Steelers, had an opportunity to really run away with this division, and now they've let the Ravens back in it. But there's still a lot of season to go. There's still 7 games left to go in the regular season schedule. And I still think, this Steelers team has the talent to be playing their best football when it matters most in January. So hopefully Mike Tomlin and the Steelers can make that a reality. But we'll see over the course of this season. If you don't want to miss a moment, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.